Have you watched any of the mini painting shorts on Instagram these days? It's pretty wild. You get all the amazing payoff shots in like 30 seconds. But they've got me thinking, if I were to break down the steps I'm seeing on the videos and replicate them myself, would my results look as good as theirs? Well, there's only one way to find out. There's a lot of amazing miniature painters that are posting shorts on Instagram and other social media sites these days, and if you watch any of those, you're probably familiar with a man known as El Miniaturista. His color-pumped shorts are super satisfying to watch, and they get me wondering, will mine look like his if I follow those steps, or is there something else to it? So I'm going to try to dissect what I see him doing in those shorts. And specifically, I'm going to focus today on something he's most well known for, object source lighting, or OSL for short. My subjects for today are 3 models I've already painted, but I'm not super happy with how I did the OSL. First up is this Plague Marine that I did not too long ago. He's actually the model I painted while entirely walking on a treadmill. That may not sound familiar to you because not many people watch that video. Now his plasma pistol does have a bit of a glow. After all, fluorescent paint goes a long ways, but I'm not really happy with the effect of the glow. It's not really shining on adjacent areas, and there's not a lot of depth to the plasma coils themselves. And that lack of depth in the source of our glow is what we're going to address first. I'm going to use white oil paints thinned down to a wash, and El Miniaturista does this quite a bit for the source of his glows. The trick is finding the right consistency of oil paint and your mineral spirits to thin it down. You don't want to thin it too much to where you pull away the opacity of the white paint, but you want to make sure that it's thin enough that it glides directly into those little cracks and lines that you're trying to fill. I'm not an expert in this, and I don't feel like my mixture is exactly perfect, but it's doing the job of filling in the cracks and crevices. I just then run a hairdryer over this oil paint. It only takes about 3 to 5 minutes to dry as long as you've thinned it. The next step is really important, but it's never really talked about, and that's the importance of dark in your lighting areas. I'm going to go back through on the parts of the gun and surrounding areas that wouldn't catch direct light from this glowing orange pistol, and I'm going to actually darken them. That's because any area that's adjacent to a really bright light but doesn't catch any of it is actually pulled deep into shadow, and we need that big contrast to really sell our glow. This is one of those steps that's done in a short but isn't shown on camera because it doesn't really give you that satisfying payoff section. But you'll notice how many dark regions are in paint jobs like El Miniaturistas, and that's really what sells the effect. And I think overall that's something that I need to improve when it comes to the OSL in lighting on my models. Next, I'm going to bust out the airbrush, and he uses the airbrush a lot in his paint jobs, much more than I do. But if we put a fluorescent paint through this airbrush and spritz it down, roughly trying to hit the angle that the glow would affect on the other surrounding parts, we get a really quick effect of this glow, not only on the pistol itself and the coils, but also in the surrounding areas. One of the reasons I don't use the airbrush a ton is I'm super impatient when it comes to cleaning it out, and I want to make sure it's perfectly clean before I put it away or between steps, and that seems like a lot of time. Although, I will say, the more that I do it over the course of these 3 models today, the quicker I'm getting at it. So yeah, it is really valuable in speeding up certain effects like this one. The reason why you use fluorescent paints is they have that natural glow to them, and when they're applied directly over a stark opaque white, it really feels like the source of a glow. Also, they look really good on camera if you lower the brightness setting because they seem to glow even more, which makes the effect look more impressive. Now already this looks better than my last attempt and did not take much time at all, but I want to push that coil vibrancy even more, and that means I need to push some of the darks. In this case, the top of each coil needs to be a little bit darker so the brightness underneath the source of the light shines even more. I think I'm doing the second pass of darkening in white step because I'm not as efficient with this and probably could have done it in just one go. But by the time I get to my second pass of the vibrant fluorescent, it's really starting to push that glow, and it's showing the source light directly inside of those plasma coils. All right, first model down, and compared to the original paint job, I can definitely see more depth in the light that I've created here. I've got a bit more control over that shine, and I think those darks, as well as that glow hitting the adjacent parts on his left side, really sell the effect a lot more. And honestly, this did not take me very long to do, so I can see why this payoff is really good for just a little bit of time. All right, the second model up is a dark elf from Warhammer Underworlds, and I actually painted this guy a number of years ago to use in my D&D campaign. He makes a wonderful looking rogue on the RPG tabletop, and I painted this guy specifically in really desaturated tones so that pink glowing flame would really be the highlight. Unfortunately, it's not as much of a highlight to the piece as I want it to be. This time, to set up the source and brightest sections of our glow on the flame, I'm just using regular white miniature paint instead of oils. Messing with the oils is good when you need to get them in cracks and crevices, but when I just want to hit those spots and draw lines, I find that acrylic paint does just fine. Next up is painting in some quick highlights in adjacent areas that would catch the light. These are the areas that would reflect most because they're closest and the surfaces and edges are raised to grab that light. And the color paint you use here doesn't really matter. I'm just using a really light gray to sketch in where these lights would hit. When we go over it later, it's actually going to take on whatever color we spray through the airbrush. And actually, while I was doing this, I realized this is a really good way to learn how to paint light angles and OSL in general. Do it after the rest of the model is entirely painted, because then the only variable I'm worried about is the direction of the light based on the light source. And I can just paint over top of whatever else I've done because this light is going to catch those, and I don't need to factor this part in while I'm painting the rest of the model if the rest of the model is already done. So yeah, if you're anything like me and your brain starts to hurt when you start to think about the physics and geometry of light, just try this. Paint the model first. Do the light at the end. Next up, I'm doing something that El Miniaturista uses a lot to great effect, and that is the airbrush with white ink. This step is used to create a lighter section near the source of our light, and it fades away as it gets across the model. And it happens really naturally without a lot of fiddly brushwork. And because fluorescent paint is naturally very translucent, it's not going to show up unless it's over top of a very light color. So this step is really helpful and damn near necessary when trying to get that really punchy glow to fade across the model and away from the light source. Now, one thing I'm learning is that when I use the airbrush to apply my fluorescents, I want to make sure I thin them a little bit with my X20A thinner by Tamiya, but not too much. They're already pretty thin. And I'm going to use little short bursts across the model. I don't ever want to flood an area. I spritz it and I move around. It'll dry in just a couple of seconds, but if I hose down an area, I'm really going to mess up this process. So you need a little bit of patience, and I'm going to need a little bit of control of just pulling back the trigger slightly with each spritz. Now, because I'm not a sniper with the airbrush, some of that white spray kind of went a little bit further than I wanted to, so some of the bright areas of the pink are pushed too far into the darker areas. So I decided I'm going to fix that really quick by using a dark purple ink through the airbrush and kind of pushing that up into the more shadowy areas and letting that pink fade naturally into a purple tone in the shadows. I'm actually pretty proud of myself of how this turned out. It was a minor change, but it didn't take very long, and it really adds that depth of the shadows back in. Now, the purple ink was a good start to building back our shadows, but I need to remind myself that with strong light comes strong shadows. So I come back in with a really dark paint. I think I used a dark desaturated blue for this and reinforced the black lining across the model to really show those stark shadows where the light did not catch at all, and the strong shadows were cast by our bright light. The last step I'm going to try here, I've seen on a number of his shorts, and that is to use the fluorescent paint directly with my paintbrush. I can push it into the small details that I want to really push a little bit more. I can even mix it a bit with white acrylic paint to create an even more punchy tone. I also hit some of the edges and corners that are closest to that light source to really push the definition of those shapes that have been chiseled out by our pink light. Now, looking at this model, we've got much more drama and much more eye-catching light source than we did before. And I really see the positive effect that this style in just a few steps has on creating vibrant models that are really eye-catching with light. And I think the fact that the model is very desaturated outside of this vibrant tone really pushes it even more. Your eye is drawn there and you're seeing why this part of the model is so interesting. Be honest, have you ever gotten a spam call or email and you wonder, how the heck do they even get my information? Well, it's likely because of data brokers. Data brokers are companies that quietly collect your personal information from public records, apps, purchases, and websites you use. They bundle your information and sell it to advertisers or anyone willing to pay. You don't get a say and you don't make a dime. And that's why I use Incogni. Incogni automatically contacts all of these data broker sites and demand that they remove all of your personal information, and they do it all for you. So you don't have to go digging through shady websites, emails, or filling out endless forms. It all runs in the background, ensuring that the only one that has your sensitive personal information is you. And they've got an extra feature that I just love. It's called custom removals. So if I ever find my information on a site Incogni doesn't already cover, I simply copy the link, put it into their custom removal tab, and Incogni will handle that removal too. Incogni is also the first and only personal data removal service that has been independently verified by Deloitte, which is the main reason I went with them. They're backed, they're legit, and I know my information is going to be scrubbed. I'll make the same recommendation to you as I did to my family and friends, and that is join me in using Incogni. And if you use my link down below with code NINJON at checkout, you get 60% off your annual program. So there's no better time than now to take control of your personal data. Now that I've done 2 models, I went back and watched his shorts again, and I think I'm reinforced with the key steps for what he's doing. First and foremost, really taking advantage of the white oils and or white paint directly with the brush. Next, his use of the airbrush with the white ink is a really easy way to create a natural fade for our light. Finally, using the fluorescent paints through the airbrush to great effect to create something really punchy and vibrant. And finally, the most important thing, in my opinion, is his strong use of shadows to really create a lot of drama between light and the natural darkness that would accompany it. All right, now that I think I've wrapped my brain around what he's doing, let's do it on one final model, pulling everything together. And this is the most dramatic model we're doing today. I've actually painted this model before I even started my YouTube channel. This was back when I was building my own custom death army for Age of Sigmar. At the time, and even today, I'm pretty proud of the glowing effect that I achieved on his ghostly skull. But I think I can push it further and figure out how to make it even more dramatic with what we've learned today. We're starting back with the white oil paint again on all the inside holes of his eyes, nose, and mouth, as well as around the base of this fleur-de-lis looking crap on the base, because I think that magical section down there should have a really interesting glow going on. This time I didn't thin the oil paint as much as the first time, and I think I probably should have thinned it a little bit more. It didn't run down the lines in that base as much as I liked, but it did end up being quite opaque and still dried in just a few minutes. Next, I go back in with my paintbrush and use a really dark brownish black to really define nice stark shadows where our light from our glow would end and before the ambient light begins. These are called termination shadows, and they really bring your model to life when they show the darkest region, and then underneath that darkest region, you have that light from the area around you starting to show again. And as I'm adding these, I'm seeing that this is one of the areas that the paint job really faltered with originally. I lose a lot of the definition, a lot of the shapes of the model because everything is just too bright. We need to cut in these shadows to have the most drama by the time we're done. Now, because the source of the glow is inside the skull and it's only coming out through the orifices, the actual exterior of his skull face would also catch some shadow. Remember, if the light is coming from inside, the outside of his skull is not going to have that direct light placement. This also helps us define the shapes of the skull because those darker areas really create the silhouette that we identify as the skull. The light gray highlight step from the last model really turned out well, so I'm going to do that again here, hitting areas like his knuckles, any upward facing sections of his arms and his chest, as well as his staff, to really push these close areas to our light source even further when we come back in with the fluorescent step next. And here's where I had a little oopsie poopsie. I came in with my white ink through the airbrush, and you gotta be careful with this. It will overspray or blow out your whole model pretty quickly, and that's what happened here. So I just need more practice with this, a little bit more precision with my trigger finger, and I'll be able to be better at this in the future, hopefully. Now, I wasn't sure how bad I messed this up, so I'm just going to keep moving on to the next step. I can fix it later if it doesn't look good. And I mixed in some of my fluorescent yellow with a bit of fluorescent green for the initial source glow. I want that a little bit more vibrant with yellow to begin with. And then from there, I went in with pure green around the edges, the areas that would still catch some of this light, but wouldn't get the direct punchiest glow, so those will fade more into the true fluorescent green. And one thing I should note is that while I use the 5 fluorescent colors by Golden for all of my fluo work, you're not limited to just use these by themselves. If you want a red tone, you could take a red ink and mix in a bit of the pink, or maybe a bit of pink and just a tiny bit of blue to add some fluorescent tone to your red. And this will make just about any color, especially brighter colors, more punchy just by adding the fluo paint to it. I even like adding a little bit of fluo paints to my highlight colors on brushwork on any part of a model to really push the warmth and vibrancy of certain sections of my model. Now, I think I want a little bit more of a punch in the orifices on his face for the glow, and it worked pretty well on the first model, so I go back through with the white oil paint just on his face. And from there, once that's dry, I can go through with just a bit of the yellow fluorescent paint with my brush and just place that inside those so that glow is extra vibrant and punchy. And I should be done at this step, but because I went a little hog wild on the white ink earlier, I'm going to go back in and reestablish my shadows because I kind of blew them out with that white. I go in with whatever dark color I already have on my palette and kind of line out those areas again between his fingers, across his face, on different sections of him that would not catch that direct light from the green glow. And that final pass of the shadows really pushed this thing to where I want it to be. I'm really happy not only with how this looks now at arm's length, it's really defined well. The glow is really punchy, but also the interest on the base, which did not take very much time at all, looks much, much better than it did before. And again, this whole process of adding glow to this model took me maybe 15 minutes. 10 minutes of that was probably cleaning out the airbrush between steps. So I guess you should stop thinking about how much time it takes to clean the airbrush and start thinking about how much time it took me to complete this step as a whole instead of breaking down what the time was spent doing. It's okay, airbrush. It's not you. It's me. And with that, all 3 of my glow-ups are complete. And I gotta say, for how little time it took, these models look way better overall. It's not just that the glow looks better, I feel like the whole paint job now looks better, even though I didn't touch that, because the glow looks much more punchy and realistic. Do they look as eye-meltingly vibrant and impressive as those seen in El Miniaturista's shorts? No, probably not. But I'll chalk that up to needing a little bit more practice, or maybe messing with the camera settings to up the contrast and the vibrancy of colors. I'm kidding, of course. You know what, I dig shorts. It's super satisfying to watch the cool parts of someone's paint job fly by and just get to the awesome result. Even though sometimes I get a little frustrated knowing that, like, I wish real painting was as fast and just the cool payoff steps, but that's not the real world we live in. I appreciate El Miniaturista allowing me to showcase his awesome work today. I've got his links on the screen here. You can check him out on Instagram, on YouTube, and of course he's got an awesome Patreon as well. And now that I've gone through what I think are his processes, I'm going to pay close attention to see if there's any more tips I can pick up and try for myself. And if I find more, I'm curious, do you want me to share them with you? Do you want more videos where I dissect what's done in short form content and explain it so you can utilize it yourself at home? After all, this hobby is not about doom scrolling. It's about learning and growing on our own painting journeys. And I'm glad that you've joined me on your painting journey. I'm glad that you watched the video. I'm glad that you subscribe to the channel and maybe even check out the Ninja on Patreon below, where you can see my behind the scenes weekly videos and hang out on Discord. Y'all are truly amazing. I could not do this without you, so sincerely, thank you for watching. And you know what? I'm going to be back before you know it with another new video. Just make sure that sometime between now and then you find time in your day to slay the gray.